Well, Bill Shimmins is joining us, middle MHK, and here to talk about his last year. Again, with most people, I've had a chance to look back on the last year. I don't know if you've had a look back at your video or just had time to assess your first year. Have you thought about it and how you did?
Yes, of course, yes.
Well, how did you do?
Well, in terms of my personal performance, I would rate 7 out of 10.
Oh, we're going to come at the end, but okay, we're going straight in there. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think
that's one up from last year.
Yeah, it's one up from last year,
yeah.
And I'm pleased that we managed to move a few things forward, particularly just before the summer recess. We presented the select committee on how we develop unoccupied urban sites. So I moved a motion earlier in Tynwald, highlighting the issue that we have in Douglas and the other towns of a number of empty vacant lots and empty derelict buildings which are really blotting the landscape in our towns. And many people, including myself, are concerned that we need to actually learn from the past and stop concreting over the Manx countryside and look to regenerate the towns by prioritising development in those areas. So I'm pleased that we managed to move that forward, and I'm looking forward to the debate on that in November.
Okay, well, I mean, Treasury is your main thing, right? Isn't it?
It is.
I mean, and that's a big part of your work, is it not?
Well, it's a busy department. It's a great place because you interact with all the other departments who are coming to you on financial matters. So it gives you a really good understanding of how government and the boards associated with government work. So yes, I'm heavily involved in that.
And how do you divide your time between constituents and government work? Did you answer that question for PAG, by the way?
I did. So 20% roughly is what I spend on constituents. It obviously varies from week to week, and some cases from constituents are more complicated than others. I'm also very involved in a number of other priorities outside Treasury. So right. I'm very keen to see the economically active population grow in terms of tackling the demographic challenge that we have with the rapidly ageing population. So I'm keen to ensure that all government policies don't hinder that, help that growth of the economically active population. So that's one of a number of key priorities for me.
Your transport strategy, getting people on bikes and things.
So active travel is something which I'm very keen on, and I was pleased that progressed during the year. I'm getting slightly concerned that it's stalled in terms of lack of traction.
I was going to kind of thinking, I haven't heard much about it recently.
So again, that's part of my role, is to ensure that we're not just writing documents, we're not just creating strategies and policies, we're actually implementing change. And one of the frustrations I have generally is about the procrastination and prevarication that I see across government, really, in terms of that speed to implement change is really slow.
But where does it get blocked? And where, in your view, is it with these civil servants, which we keep hearing about, who seem to run their departments, if you listen to certain people, but or is it just mechanics in general? I mean, help us out here, the public. Why does it always seem so slow? Because everyone says that. I think
it's a cultural challenge. I wouldn't just place it with the civil servants. I think politicians have to accept responsibility for delivery of change. And just to give you another example, this time last year, I was hoping that we might manage to shorten the summer recess. If you remember that Tynwald has the longest summer recess of any parliament in the British Isles. So we are sitting here talking in the middle of September. Already Westminster is back, Scotland is back, Wales is back. Pretty much everyone else is back to work, whereas Tynwald will return in the third week in October. And so sometimes I think there's a cultural reluctance to change and even to give change a go, because I'm a great believer that we could try stuff. If it doesn't work, we'll learn as we go and we can change. There's a fear of change across a number of areas, and sometimes I think that we're very proud of our traditions, but sometimes that's quite a limiting mindset, and that means that we can be slow to take on best practice from elsewhere and actually implement change which will benefit the people of the man.
How do you go about that change? I mean, we talked about it last year.
Yeah.
You've had a whole year to think about this.
Yeah.
How do you implement it? Is it passing a bill through it, or is it simply you get everyone together and say, let's cut these holidays back?
Well, I took an amendment motion to the debate on the Liz Vane report, and the vote did not pass. I lost the argument because a number of people were concerned about change. They were unnerved by that change. One government minister actually suggested that I go to Westminster if I wanted that change. You know, if you look at Hansard, you'll see that. So,
can you remind us how the vote went? Did you lose it?
It wasn't a close vote. I had support. but it was single digits. It wasn't a close vote.
Isn't that interesting? So people just keep with what they like.
So it's understandable in some respects, but the world is a rapidly moving place. We're in a kind of 24/7 society. You look at Brexit, you look at all the things that are going on. Is it right that we are going to come back in the third week in October? I don't think so. And I think that's just one example of many where we actually need to up our pace of delivery. So there's lots of great ideas and great suggestions, but what we're not great at is actually implementing those quickly.
Okay, I mean, written questions continue. Technically, government doesn't end. It's what, if you listen to everyone, the president will tell me that and that sort of thing. But I can see where you're coming. Now, what else happened in the last 12 months that you're happy with and that you've done?
So I'm really pleased that I raised the government's use of single-use plastics. So I was delighted that that was taken on board, and again a good plan has been produced in terms of how we move forward constructively on that. So what I will be doing over the next year is making sure that we implement that plan, that it's not just a piece of paper, that it will drive meaningful change for the environment. I do think that it's great that we have the biosphere status in Eleman, and we're so proud of the island in which we live, but it does bring some responsibilities. So one of the things I am concerned about is air quality, particularly in the urban areas. So I am looking for further change in that to make sure that we are living up to our responsibilities as part of the UNESCO biosphere. So the environment is very important to many people now, and so I will continue to ask questions on that. But we have seen some progress.
Everything like electric cars more and all that sort of way forward. We're not leading from the front, are we? But
we're quite far behind,
which is strange. Which a small island could have been leading the way from.
So it's a great opportunity. So we seem to have lost that ability to be nimble, to be leading the pack on a number of things. So if you look at what's happening really across Europe in terms of electric vehicles, we're kind of a wee bit stuck. And so I am lobbying and arguing for a more proactive, a more modern approach to that, because there's obvious benefits. And actually, most of the manufacturers are transferring their production to electric vehicles. It's a trend which we know is happening. We should be embracing it and planning and going with it.
And you do get electric bikes put onto the things. You look.
I did.
We last talked
which was great. Yes. So you see more bicycles.
You get a tax rebate or something, or a grant. Or something.
So there is a benefit in kind tax exemption. So it's to encourage people to actively commute, and you are seeing more bicycles on the roads now, which is great.
Electric car, you don't get it here. You have to buy it through the UK, and all this jiggling pokery is going on.
You don't pay road tax.
True, but you don't get this massive amount of money,
But actually, my understanding is it's about 2 pence a mile for an electric car. So it's a pretty attractive economic option.
I'm going green. That's why I'm probably interested in this. I'm buying electric car.
So, that's
I'll let you know.
That's part of the trend that we're seeing generally. So again, other things that I'm looking for are the road safety strategy. So if you look at our road safety statistics, they are not great. They're probably one of the worst in Europe, depending on how the measures are. It's quite difficult to benchmark due to some of the way that we collect the data here. But everyone recognises it as an important area in which we can improve. So I'm advised that the road safety strategy is imminent. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I think
what's that mean? Things like speed limits and things? Or?
Well,
potentially
we shall see what the strategy brings. So there are a number of aspects.
Who makes a strategy? Who's it coming back from?
Well,
Civil
it's coming
servants
back
or
it's coming from Home Affairs, or the sponsoring department for the road safety strategy. But it's something that impacts on all of us. And if we want to make active travel a viable choice, because it is a choice, we're not forcing anybody to walk or run or cycle to work, then we need to look at the road safety situation, because that's the key feedback we're getting from consultation.
Now, Treasury, you had the SAVE campaign, didn't you? I did. How's that going? So I've heard very little about that. Are you still involved in that?
So I was pleased to head that up initially, and it's gone. We had a tremendous response from the general public. Lots of great suggestions about how government could become more efficient.
But has anything happened?
Well, a number of those have been filtered and are currently with the departments, because if we're going to implement long-lasting change, which is what this is about, it needs to be driven by the individual departments. So expect to see more updates on that
by next year. when we talk on year 3 report?
I think it's very important that public expectations are high because they brought some excellent suggestions forward. It's very important that we deliver that change.
What else do you want to do this coming year? What we can talk about now. What you've got your eyes on, other things. Anything you want particularly, bills or anything like that. Anything you want to do?
Sure. Well, I'm bringing forward the Dormant Asset Bill for Treasury. So that is again brings us up to date. So the UK and Jersey have had this for a while in terms of dormant bank accounts. So we should be able to raise some funds for the third sector here in the Isle of Man.
So if it's been dead for X amount of time, that money's not, well, you're not taking it, the government's not taking it, but you'll hand it on.
No, it won't go into general revenue. Right. So that's an example where we're catching up elsewhere.
Well, you're the banker, you must have inside knowledge on how many of those sort of things there are.
So
it's quite fantastic, is it?
We'll see how much there is, but I think it's great that we're catching up. So that's one thing that I'm looking to progress.
Yes.
In terms of other things that we've talked about, we're looking at how we grow the islands. It's very important we grow our population.
Economically active.
Particularly economically active population, and how we encourage people to stay and how we encourage people to come here. So we need to do that in an insightful and more thoughtful way than we have done in the past. So I'm very keen to see us regenerate the town centres.
Are you happy with all these plans that are coming out for regeneration?
So I'm delighted to see some of the regeneration projects which are happening in Douglas. I think that's very important if we're to get the vibrancy back in our capital. And what we really need to do is focus building in the towns, the urban areas. So what you've seen elsewhere is an urban renaissance.
Rather than sprawl, you mean?
So what you're seeing in the last 20, 30 years is lots of outlying housing estates being built across the island. And that has created significant commuter flows in and out of Douglas. And if you take a step back, you think, really, is this the most sensible way for us to operate? So what we're looking to do is prioritise development in the urban areas ahead of building on the Manx countryside.
Are you still enjoying yourself? Because you were last time.
I am enjoying myself.
I mean, you were ecstatic almost. So you're the most exciting politician I've ever seen, probably.
I'm not sure about that, but
for a banker as well, I jest. But you know, I mean, no, seriously.
Yeah, I think it's a great privilege.
This is now
it's a great privilege and a responsibility, and I'm learning a lot still in the job. But it is it's a very enjoyable role to have.
You're ready to step up to be a minister, though, right?
I've made no secret that I went into politics to change things, and your ability to influence that change is much higher if you're a minister. So I would be pleased to accept a ministerial role.
Fantastic. You've actually answered that question, which most people just say, I'll do what I've been told to. But now the one would be, if you had the choice, if you know, where would you most fit? I mean, would it be the Treasury, for instance?
I think Treasury is a big step up from backbencher.
It is your speciality, right?
I would be delighted to take on any ministerial opportunity. I would not be.
Now you give me the wishy-washy answer. Well, give me one that you want. There must be something you'd.
No, I think I'm absolutely happy to accept any ministerial position and would throw myself into the best of my ability.
So you're enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
Are they everyone still else enjoying each other's company and getting on with each other? How are you getting on with Howard Quayle this year? And everything all right? You know.
Howard and I are constituency colleagues, so we see each other quite a lot. And
do you work together?
We do work together. So we do joint surgeries. We discuss many things, and in most cases we agree. Some cases we don't, but that's what you would expect in politics. Sure. I think we have a good working relationship, and generally across Tynwald I see that working relationship. We don't always agree, and that's just the nature of politics.
Well, you started at the very beginning with what you gave yourself this year, 1 point more. The government last year was 6. Yeah. Where do you put them now? And I'll let you halves if you want, because some people.
No, I'll still be putting them at 6. I think we're still very long in rhetoric. I think we're still. What I see is lots of policies and strategies. What I'm not seeing, which is actually what really matters, is positive change, delivery, and that is what I'm looking to see.
And can that change? I mean, can you actually get things moving faster?
I absolutely believe we can. You know, if there's a shared desire to do that, and there's a strong direction that we need to focus on delivery, yes, we can.